With regard to this situation where there is a gun-heavy set I will represent to you, would you think, in your experience and what you've seen, it would be advisable to have a part-time armorer doing two jobs?
I would say that would be highly inadvisable.
Whose responsibility is it to properly staff with regard to the movie functions?
The line producer or the unit production manager.
When you have a set involving upwards of 20 firearms, would it be, in your experience, possible for a part-time armorer to manage that?
I wouldn't imagine so. One person can, each one of those weapons needs to be tracked pretty consistently for the set to remain safe, so I don't see how a single person can keep their eye on 20 firearms.
With regard to overall set safety and your experience and background, who is in charge of that?
The first AD is considered in all of the published safety advisories the chief safety officer on the set.
Are you a member of various guilds?
I'm a member of the Writers Guild, the Directors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, which is the Actors Guild, and I also happen to be a member of the Musicians Guild.
Okay, so when you talk about safety rules, are some of those from those guilds?
Yes, there's I can't remember the name of the organization, but they sort of collectively represent all of the various guilds and issue recommendations for safety that they recommend attaching to the call sheet each day.
Is it, in your experience, also something you've seen where there will be daily safety meetings on set, especially in a gun-heavy set?
Expert?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe he can give lay opinions on his experience, but also we would tender him as an expert.
I think we should approach.
So, Mr. Pitch, you were discussing some of those safety rules. Now, would it be, in your experience, advisable for production to convene daily safety meetings?
Yes, in fact, it's recommended by all of the published literature by the guilds. And it's been they recommend that a safety meeting takes place anytime there's to be any stunts, firearms, special effects. But it's been my experience that in the last 7 or 8 years since the tragic incident with the camera assistant who was killed on the railroad bridge, that every first AD I've worked with, regardless of what's happening that day, on the call sheet has a quick safety meeting, just running over and reiterating basic safe practices.
And you as a director, is that something that you advise and you practice?
I don't give safety meetings. That's the job of the safety officer, the first AD, but I think it's a great idea.
In your experience in interacting with first assistant directors, if, for example, there's a situation where a set is rushing, there's safety issues occurring, does the first assistant director have any responsibility in that respect?
Most definitely.
And what would that be in your experience? What would you expect to see happen?
My experience has been that the first has an announcement to everybody: slow down, this is not safe, or we're not doing this, or just takes charge. And if there's a specific issue with a crew member, they'll pull them aside and discuss the issue and consult with stunts or props or firearms and deal with it.
Is that also true, for example, if you have a issue with an actor? For example, firing a blank after somebody yells cut. What would the first AD be expected to do in your experience?
Speak with them and indicate, look, when cut is called, usually the only person that can call cut is the director, but if it's a safety issue, anybody can call cut. And once cut is called, everything needs to stop, because if there is a safety issue, obviously, that somebody's noticed, nothing else should take place. So yes, the first AD should speak to that performer.
When it comes to safety, what is your view as to everybody's responsibility on set?
Well, again, it's not just my view, but again, in the published literature of the various guilds, they indicate safety is everyone's responsibility. If there's a safety issue, there are anonymous hotlines for anybody to call and raise these issues.
And are those anonymous hotlines, are those published generally in your experience working on set?
They are usually with that safety recommendations that are attached to the call sheet.
And those hotlines, what do they provide for people to be able to do if they notice a safety failure?
You can call someone from your guild. Each of the studios has their own separate hotline. And as far as I know, that will allow you to anonymously, so you don't, look, if you report something, you could put your career in jeopardy. Nobody wants to do that, but the idea is that a representative can provide that information to somebody who will take action, such as the producer, the UPM, or the first AD.
In your experience, have you worked and seen the interaction between prop masters and armorers?
I have.
And can you tell the jury, in your experience generally, how they interact? Who's in charge of the firearms and who's in charge of the ammunition, and then what the prop master role is?
Well, the prop master, more often than not, hires the armorer, because that's a subset of that department. But the armorer is in charge of all ammunition, all firearms, maintaining them, keeping them safe, and inventorying the ammunition.
With those duties and responsibilities, would you believe it to be important in your experience to accord the armorer adequate time to do those duties?
Yes.
And would it be important to accord adequate resources for that armorer to do those duties?
Yes.
If there is a scenario where the armorer is dealing with a gun-heavy set, not having those resources, who would you expect to assist that armorer in getting those?
Props.
If there is a situation where there is a scene, a video, something's happening, and both the armorer and first assistant director witness a safety violation involving a weapon, for example, what would be your assessment whether one or both of them should say something about that?
I would say both of them should say something about it and figure out why it happened and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Cross-exam.